We're all hanging out in Montreux.
Yeah, of course, this guitar keeps slipping off my lap.
We're rocking out, man, on
Not happy.
Lac Leman.
It's not a good morning. By the way, have you ever been to Montreux?
Yes,
Oh my God.
it's beautiful.
What a beautiful place.
It is.
You know?
I've been there a bunch, actually. I spent a lot of time in
Really?
Switzerland. Yeah, I spent a lot of time working there.
Oh,
There's like a really giant, mega giant food company that's kind of just down the road from Montreux in Vevey. They're called Nestle.
oh, yeah.
It's from Montreux.
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, they're just close to Montreux. Yeah.
They make chocolate bunnies or something
I think they do. They make a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah. What a great deal to hang out down there. And it's great seeing that. There's that area of grass where you see all the kind of the statues, the busts of all the great rockers and blues players.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
No, I remember that I was there, and there was the Freddie Mercury statue. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I think I have a lot of pictures of that.
Yeah.
Interesting trivia, and people probably do know this. Stevie Ray Vaughan, when he was nobody, his agent said, "Hey, we want you to go play at this thing in Switzerland," and he was like, "Okay, whatever." And he plays, and he gets discovered by David Bowie, who happened to be there.
Wow.
And so, if you listen to the album, with Let's Dance and all those hits that Bowie, that blues guitar that you hear in the background, it's Stevie Ray Vaughan playing with David. Who would have thought that Stevie Ray Vaughan and David Bowie would ever be playing together?
Well, the famous outro solo on Let's Dance, that's him. You know?
It's pretty amazing.
So that actually comes to the. So that actually comes to this thinking that I always have, that you have to be at the right place at the right time.
Yes.
No, and it happens a lot as well with companies, right? That's I always say, to succeed on a company, you need to be, you need a product, but you need to be at the right time, at the right moment, with the right people.
Exactly.
You are so correct. How many companies do we know have built great technology and they still died?
Yeah.
Because they couldn't sell it or whatever.
Yeah.
I think that happens a lot.
Yeah, and so that's what we're going to be sort of talking about today, right? Is this the question is consolidation happening right now? And maybe why? Is it because there's this mismatch between these great innovations not having a market, or does it have anything to do with the pandemic? I mean, you would think, you would think that
it plays a role.
Could save us from the pandemic, but it can also be problematic for the pandemic or for IoT. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
no, it's tough stuff, man.
Yeah. What are you guys seeing?
It's an old story, obviously, in IoT, how there's just hundreds of companies that dove into the IoT space. Yeah. And as I often say, and this sounds horrible, when I'm flying at 30,000 feet in the air in my plane, looking down at all the IoT platforms, they all look the same to me. Yeah. They're all pretty similar, Oh, hello.
Hello.
Sorry, I have a visitor.
No, don't say sorry. It's great. Have
20-something episodes, no?
Yeah, it's good to have a visitor. Hello.
Actually, I was talking with a friend who is doing a podcast about educational technology, and he told me until the 50th episode, I didn't get baby crying on the podcast.
Oh wow!
That's very weird, no? With all the pandemics and all the lockdown, it's weird to don't listen baby cry, no? Or children crying before, no? 50 episodes.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah. Oh my God.
Sorry
She's a cutie.
Not a problem.
She wants to play this.
Oh, that's cool.
So this is a microbit.
No way.
Non funziona, papi.
Devo da connettere una cosa, vale?
I like
Portali
that.
alla mamma.
That's awesome.
That's great.
Yeah.
Wow.
God, so what were we talking about?
Well, we were wondering, is there going to be consolidation in all these IoT companies? There's so many of them.
Yeah, they all, like you said,
They're all very similar. They
Yeah.
all kind of do the same thing, right? I mean, I know they all think they're special and unique, and they probably are. It's obviously a nuanced conversation, but what is
Yeah.
they connect the things, they get data off those things, they store the data, maybe they organize it in the database, maybe they model it like twins, maybe not. They have maybe some kind of analytics, it might be streaming. A lot of times those companies don't have to build the analytics themselves. There's so much free stuff on apache.org. They can probably just glue that together.
Yeah.
But there's so much similarity. And I'm sure in the early days when they were first building their companies, they seemed unique and everyone's racing ahead. But the sad part of the business world is the best players don't always win, right? Or sometimes you might be hidden and no one knows who you are. You built the best technology ever, but you're toiling away in obscurity. And well, a lot of these companies they may have great ideas, great engineers, but they may not have great sales and marketing. So nobody knows about them, or they have trouble getting traction with customers.
Yeah, and I think this goes back to the session that we did for IoT community. It's the whole scaling issue, right? How do you scale? Why do so many IoT players have difficulty doing that, And I think that for a time that even applied for the big names out there like AWS and Azure and others that were getting into the game, really taking more of let's say a data analytics centric or centered approach. It all boiled down to, well, how do we scale this business for ourselves? Beyond just scaling the infrastructure, scaling, the manufacturing of widgets so that you can bring the cost per unit down,
Right.
Like you always say, Rob, the struggle is real, right?
It's tough.
Yeah, but here's the other thing that I think is a dilemma. It's something that I've observed in so many conversations with so many IoT companies, and maybe this is an outside of the bubble perspective, but I think a lot of these IoT companies are not, well, number one, what the hell's an IoT company? But a lot of what they are doing is they are mini system integrators / wannabe consultants, but they don't know it. And I think they may be a little bit confused about, they might have an identity issue, and that identity issue is, well, what the hell is an IoT company, right? And so you have one side that thinks, okay, IoT means we go out and we do this hackathon with the customer. I hope they'll pay for it, and then we develop this really cool stuff using all this technology that's part of this thing called IoT, and we're going to have some fun, and there isn't necessarily a real way of scaling that at the end of the day. That's a tough gig. And then you have the other side that's trying to sell subscriptions monthly. They're trying to do some as a service type of thing, or they're trying to sell as many low-cost widgets as possible. So when you look at those two situations, those diametrics, if you will, it's like, well, how do you make money off of any of that stuff? And are both sides diluting themselves in terms of being able to economically scale into something that can, yield a viable business, right?
Yeah.
But for example, let me rewind a bit. So what would you suggest to a B2C company that wants to get a connected product? What would you recommend to them, for example? That probably is very different than a B2B company, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Do you have like recommendations? Like someone wants to start a B2C company.
Right.
What would you, with IoT B2C company, what would you recommend? Like a home connected device, like to start a Kickstarter. What would be your recommendations to don't struggle on the journey to success?
You mean from a funding perspective?
From IoT? No, I mean from business or from company.
I think for starters, I would say get out of the IoT business and quit calling yourself an IoT company, because everybody's building platforms and they're all horizontal and come build anything you want. And they're either targeting enterprises, they're targeting device OEMs. Hey, we'll be the transport to get your data back from your washing machine to the cloud, whatever. I think that's just a dead end. I think that whole space is a dead end. I think it seemed great. Everybody built it. It's necessary. It's plumbing that you need. You need to move data from one place to another. I think a whole lot of people know how to do that. It's not rocket science. Yeah. Are there a lot of obscure protocols in industrial world? Yeah. But can you get those connectors from someone or open source? Yeah, you can. Absolutely. That used to seem really valuable. Then you paid money for Kepware and other things like that. But you know what? There's open source libraries for all those things. And so I think to your point, Mark, is instead of saying, I'm going to help some consumer B2C thing, like for a home, whatever, you just need to be that, if you're succeeding, you're the one coming up with the Ring doorbell video camera. You're building the Nest thermostat. People need to get out of this generic horizontal space, and they need to build an actual solution and take that actual solution to market. They need to take their video camera doorbell to market with a super narrow focus. And yes, maybe you need to build that IoT plumbing that lives underneath, build it, and then never talk about it again. Just, seriously.
Yeah.
Seriously, never talk about it. Go after the vertical solution that someone goes, oh, yeah, I need that. Because people are stealing packages from my front doorstep, or there's bad people in my neighborhood. Oh, I need that. Oh, I love the Nest thermostat. That's what people thought IoT was going to be, instead of some big maker lab with people soldering stuff on little boards and stuff like that. Because you're right, that doesn't scale. The maker thing doesn't scale at all.
Yeah. And I mean, you just have to be true to what you have to recognize what you are. A lot of IoT, quote unquote IoT companies, because I still don't know what the hell an IoT company is. They're engineering as a service company, right? If they're supporting an end customer who is, let's say, a B2C electronics company, they're not an IoT company. But you have some of these like friggin' electronics companies, just because they, started to connect some of the devices or make them smart, say, well, we're an IoT company. It's like, no, they're friggin' electronics company, and you're using IoT technology, maybe one of a trillion different technologies that you could use to add an additional functionality to your products, which is you connect the crap and you monitor it. You can capture telemetry on it, and you may want to, provide predictive maintenance and stuff, provided that that data doesn't actually call out whether or not you have a crappy product or a good one, right? Well, hopefully you'll do it if it's good. Or maybe you have to do it because it's crappy. Actually, there's a lot of companies that lean toward IoT to help improve their products. Because if you have a crappy product, you push it out, you know what? You have a problem that IoT is not going to intrinsically solve, but it can help you understand what the problems are so that you can solve the product, But I mean, you have to know what you are and what customers want. But if you go to the market and say, well, we're an IoT company, and then you try to talk that language, these people, I mean, they have people in the IoT industry that don't really have a clear idea of what IoT is and how to talk about it to somebody who actually has money. I've seen that, and I talked to a bunch of startups that where they lead with the technology. You just can't do that. You know,
Yeah.
the demands, you have to shape the demand. You have to shape the demand. But then before you can shape demand, you have to understand the end market that you're chasing. And I don't think there's, surprisingly, and this doesn't just apply to IoT, there are a lot of companies that go, well, we don't know what our end markets are. We're hoping that you can help us figure that out. And it's like, dude, okay, I'll help you figure it out, but you're at this stage and you have no idea how you're gonna make money.
It's that old cliche, that solution in search of a problem.
Oh yeah, but
It's
you know what?
it's engineers, architects gone wild.
Oh yeah,
We built this cool thing. Can somebody help sell it for us? And maybe
you know what?
give us a pitch deck.
No, we could probably make a bunch of money doing that. We just have somebody going around, with a camera filming IoT engineers and watching
Exactly.
them wild.
Yeah.
Have like a little Caribbean music in the background.
Right. And you know what? I mean, this sounds evil and bad, but it's happening to all these platforms. People who are moving into edge computing, that's IoT related edge computing, it's going to happen to them too. It's edge is just another location. I can build an edge thing and put it on a little small computer, and it looks just like my big server cloud core IoT thing. It's doing the same crap. It's still pulling data in and doing something, and then maybe it sends it to some core thing, or maybe it processes it there. Maybe it does machine learning, but it's still horizontal. It's still generic. It's good plumbing. Hey, you know me, I'm passionate about digital twins, but I have to get over myself and realize it's just plumbing too, and at some point, whatever seems novel and cool in the early stages will just become a commodity. And so no one's buying they're like, I need a digital twin solution to save my business. Nobody's looking for that. Digital twins might be an enabler to help you with a specific solution. And so that's why I would say, build all that plumbing, but then never talk about it again, and go to market with your point solution. I'm a water management solution. I'm a Ring doorbell solution. I'm a whatever thing. I do this one thing. I go after this market. It's really understandable what I'm selling to the people who are in that space. I'm not showing up with a Swiss Army knife that says, hey, we can do anything for anybody and we can save you money. People going in the industrial space, they're trying to, get in the way of OEMs who make these big machines that are in factories, and they're saying, I'm going to intercept your data and I'm going to do some magic. Well, guess what? Those OEMs who are making those big machines, they're building that stuff too. Yeah. And so sometimes I say this horrible thing that, while we're waiting for IoT to take off, the reason it hasn't taken off is it already happened a long time ago. Yeah. It was already invented decades ago. There's no magic. We're just using IP networking instead of whatever proprietary networking. Yeah. We've been capturing telemetry from things for decades, and it's not new. Everyone who is in that space knows how to do it. If you're wondering why it's not taken off, it's because it already happened a long time ago, and people are not seeing something new. It's all of us engineers who are like, oh, look at this magic thing. A thing can talk. Where I used to have a person had to go look at it to find out. Well, it's bullshit. It's already there. Yeah. It already happened.
Dude, you're killing me. You're stealing you're disclosing all of my talking points for my my keynotes for things conference.
My bad.
Dude, what the hell's your problem?
Sorry.
Oh my God.
But actually, getting into that point. So on the smart home use case, like 20 years ago, there was the domotics, right? So, but everything was with proprietary protocols, and everything was needed to be wired. But all the features or all the interaction or the experience already existed with the domotics. Yeah. So it's just the Internet of Things just made it wireless, but with Zigbee and Z-Wave and so on, but nothing changed actually.
Well, yeah, this is just all part of a continuum, like you said, Rob, that's been around for a while. And, oddly enough, as I think about these forecasts and stuff like that, I think it's just the forecast catching up the research firm just discovered the buzzword, or they created the buzzword. They went out and started sizing the market, but they started off with a small slice initially. And then, as they start to discover, well, okay, this is how big this buzzword is. What you saw with a lot of the forecasts and models was, they threw everything in, including the kitchen sink. And, famously, these research firms, a lot of them put in all kinds of crap, like, the connected toaster and the connected refrigerator, or they even factored in the future connected car or autonomous vehicle, whatever. And then you had the research firms and the consulting firms now look at the models and go, wait a minute, this is a little bit goofy. And there was a rationalization as each of them started to point fingers at each other and calling each other, well, oh, that's stupid, you shouldn't have included that in. Oh, their forecast includes this, and they're only doing this and that. And next thing you know, you see this gigantic number start to implode, as people realize, wait a minute, this stuff is not what we thought it was,
Yeah.
That's the hype cycle.
It
And
is.
it actually it's not started by the industry. It's started by the buzzword and a bunch of people who are not familiar with a particular phenomenon that had already been organically growing and happening, discovering, the truth about it, right? Because that's something that we always hear, right? It's like, oh yeah, this IoT stuff, we've been doing this for a long time. Then as you start to dig under the covers, it's like, holy crap. All right, well, we've been double counting. Oh, well, we better cut this stuff out. Oh, wait a minute.
That is it. We've been double counting.
Yeah, what the hell?
That's what we've been
We're already
doing.
counting, IoT analytics and BI analytics. All right, well, we better strip a little bit more out of the forecast.
If you think IoT is something new and it's an exploding market, then you should just go to NASA headquarters and tell them, we have this amazing new technology that's going to allow you to talk to spaceships and satellites. No. They're going to be like, you're an idiot.
I have a funny feeling Stephanie is glad that she's not on this episode, because she's so not positive and super Debbie Downer.
We're basically turning this into our final podcast, aren't we?
No, here, cool vibes. No, but you got to help people. You can't help them by sitting there telling them BS. And I think when you consider what the industry has gone through with COVID, we can continue to make this look like a rosy thing, but there's a lot of challenges, right? You see a lot of just companies overall struggling, and like what we've said in the past is like, where's the real innovation? And you can't really blame a lot of the IoT companies, because it's a scary time for them as well. They're not going to go out of their way. They're not going to stick their neck out to do something that's going to save the world, because they're trying to save their own necks and trying to figure out, well, how do I sell what I've already invested in? And then you have a bunch of companies out there that don't necessarily have the courage to go out and do this really massive transformation that needs to happen in order to sustain themselves, and maybe defer or even refuse all this bailout or emergency survival money, relief money that's coming in. It just ends up being, everyone's just waiting for the vaccine, and maybe that's where IoT really comes in. Hey, it's all about cold chain.
Yes, and you know what? I'm having flashback.
circle.
I'm having flashbacks to many years ago at Mark's big event, his IoT Stars, years and years and years ago. And I remember guys coming up and pitching cold chain at his event years ago. And it was like, oh, that's a great idea. And now, years later, everybody's like, hey, I got this great idea. It's called cold chain. And I'm going to monitor it. I'm like, dude, you're late to the party.
Yeah. But, kudos to the people who were thinking about it before it was needed on a massive scale.
Well, looking forward that they survive till to have a product. Well, so it's what we said. No, you have to be at the right place at the right moment. If you are at the right place, but 2 years before, maybe that's not good.
Yeah, that's true. Yes, I've certainly worked at lots of startups that were early to the market. And the market, you thought, what's the problem? We don't understand what we have. We're going to change the world. And people are like, yeah, I don't get it. Whatever.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, like that year of the cold chain startup, the winner was one that was for diabetes, I guess, for the medical IoT startup. And I mean, the conclusion was, you cannot compete with the health IoT company because you always want that people survive, but then you have to interconnect that to have people surviving. Maybe you need cold chain, or you need an HVAC, or you need whatever, thousands of other components that are intangible potentially, but needed to be there.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. Leonard, we're talking about this year of COVID and everything. No doubt it's taken its toll on sales process for people. Everybody tries to act like, oh no, it's great. We're doing deals on Zoom. It's no problem. Yeah. You know what? It's not a good, it's just a poor substitute for face-to-face doing deals with customers and really showing them, we try our best. We do what we do. Right. And so, just like pivoting your marketing message, I mean, my company, Ericsson, Mobile World Congress, that's our biggest event. That's where we show the world what we've got. Yeah. And that thing shut down and we had to pivot and make digital versions of what we were going to show in person. Yeah. And we did the best we could. And I think we did a great virtual version, but people want to be with other people. They want to see things. They want to touch things. Yeah. They want to have deep dives. They want to go have dinner and have drinks afterwards. They want to get to know, because you're buying a person when you're buying a product,
Absolutely.
Big time. I mean, CES, kudos to the guys at, CTA for trying to put on a great program that could, replace the line. There's no way.
There's no way. CES is CES is an exhibition. It's a giant exhibition where you're walking through zillions of different halls, looking at a million little things.
Yeah, bumping into a million different people, and then getting stuck on those buses going between.
Yes, those buses.
I mean, if you don't have that experience of exasperation and frustration trying to get around, this ridiculously sprawling convention, then you're not at CES.
That's so true.
It really, and then you bump into things that you would never expect that are completely off script.
Yeah,
and that's the beauty of live events. Honestly,
Rob, explain your experiment that you have been doing last week on social networks. What comments did you receive
about what, going to CES, going to Vegas?
Going to CES 2021. So did people thought that you were really in Vegas, or?
I did. What? I really was in Vegas.
You were?
I was. Well, I was. At the end of the week. Unrelated to CES, I had some friends who are getting together in Vegas, and you wouldn't believe how cheap it is to fly there. You wouldn't believe how cheap the hotels are. They're just like $39 for Mandalay Bay.
Well, I know, and that's what Vegas used to be like, right? It's like
normally this week they crank up the rates to like $500 a night, and so it's cheap. It's cheap to fly, and so so I went there with a bunch of friends and everything. But yes, I pretended I was at CES, and so I launched Windows Mobile 2021. And that was the big announcement, with great improvements to ActiveSync, multi-touch start menu on Windows Mobile. It's revolutionary. Yeah. Anyway, we're just having fun. I'd say I broke even, mostly gambling. But I got to go to Sinatra for dinner at one of my favorite Italian places over in Encore. It's good to hang out with Frank. You know, it's a good joy. It was good. It was fun.
No.
But yes, where was everybody? It was like when we talked about COVID in every downtown. It's like 28 days later, there's nobody around except zombies, basically.
Yeah.
And so, Vegas was pretty quiet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can
Well, going back to the topic of consolidation, what are you guys' thoughts on that?
It's happening.
It's just that it's happening.
It's happening.
You think it's happening? Or
It is.
It's
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's inevitable. It's already happening. These companies, they're struggling to sell. Most of these companies, they're lots of smart engineers.
Yeah.
And but they realize that the value of sales and marketing is just incredible.
Yeah.
And then it's, again, like we said, it's been harder to sell and market during the time of COVID, for sure.
But
and so it just amplified how hard it is to win, right?
Yeah.
And then you've got other mega giant companies who are in the IoT space who have unlimited money, literally unlimited money forever. And they come out and tell you, we're going to invest $5 billion on IoT. Good luck beating us. And some of these big companies have the best sales forces in the world. And they're deeply integrated with every giant company, every enterprise on the planet already. And so they already have those close relationships already. It is so hard to compete with that. Now you hear a lot of people talking about bad-mouthing big tech.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of times when you hear big tech, they're talking about things like, being tracked and social media and other things like that. But
yeah.
But there's this notion of big tech. The black hole has got such a force now with the gravity that all these great small innovative companies just start to not have a chance. I'm going to give you a flashback. The first, I was a startup junkie in the 90s. And then the first company I did where I was the founder of my own startup was a mobile device management company in the early 2000s called Net Perceptor. And I remember going to pitch VCs on that. And it was mobile device management. Early days, though. It was years before AirWatch and Mobile Iron. I think BlackBerry Enterprise Server was like kind of our main competitor. And there were some others that would get bigger later. And, when the VCs would say, well, don't you think Microsoft's going to build something like that? Well, maybe.
Oh, no. We will be faster than them.
And it's, but what I frustrated about that, and I'm sure lots of startups and small companies are frustrated by when it comes to them versus big tech, is how many times do they talk to someone trying to raise money and they ask that same question? Well, don't you think Google's going to build that? Don't you think, AWS is going to have that? Maybe, probably, but they don't have it now. And now they're so big with so much money and such this gravitational pull around them and deep tentacles, right, into companies, back to what we're talking about, sales and marketing and relationships. It is just so hard for a smaller company to compete against that. They may have something better, or they may be new to the market, and maybe their best chance is just to get acquired by one of these big players.
Hey, I want to coin a new term.
Okay.
Based on an old term. We can call it the neo-keiretsu or the neo-chaebol. You know what a chaebol is, right? A chaebol.
No.
Say it with an American accent. Chaebol. Keiretsu. Japanese.
Oh, keiretsu. Yes. Continuous improvement. Or
karaoke.
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 Yes, I know what you're talking about.
Dude.
Yes, keiretsu.
You work for a Hitachi, man.
Yes,
You have no excuse.
No, I do know it. You were just saying it. I didn't understand.
Totally wrong. Hiretsu.
Hiretsu.
Yeah, that was wrong. Sorry. Karaoke.
Let me give you my 5 cents of consolidation on IoT. So, because I have been listening since the last 5 years that since 2016, consolidation is coming. It's next year.
Yeah.
And then, 2018, I hear that from an investor. Listen to me. And this is a very well-connected guy and really smart. So listen to me in 2017. You have to be there in 2018. 2018 will be the year of the IoT. And yeah, it's 2021, and we are still same. And actually, what I see today is that on the PC era, there is a winner like Microsoft. On the mobile phone, probably we could say it's Android or iOS or Apple, but mostly Android. Maybe we should see the consolidation as Android. Maybe it's a winner. On cloud, we should say AWS, Amazon, or maybe Azure competing, etc. But on IoT, I don't see like this brand or this stamp. Like, okay, IoT or Edge is sold to this brand, right? Like, so I don't think we are on consolidation phase yet. I think we are beginning, but not yet. I don't know. What do you think about that?
No, I think it's happening. 3 years ago, I was thinking, man, AWS, Microsoft, I mean, these guys really don't have a game, just trying to, be sort of this aggregator and analyzer of data. But they've done some really smart moves, all of them, the big guys. Especially AWS and Microsoft, and so and no doubt, Google's going to follow suit very quickly, and then you have some other players out there that have been playing the game for a long time that may find their mojo as well, and engage with the smaller guys or the mid tier guys in a different way, and namely, I'm talking about IBM. But that's a big if. Those dudes have to really get their game together. It's to me, it's been kind of a disappointment. But yeah, I think consolidation in IoT is happening, and the catalysts are now being injected into the market. Now, it's still, you have to ask the question: what is IoT? It means a lot of different things still, and I think we're all still really confused about it, and I am as well. Because other people have different views on what IoT is. So we might all have different views on what consolidation is, but all I can say is anyone who calls themselves an IoT company, they're going to have a tough time playing the game as a small player going forward. And I think the best thing to do as a small player is resolve the identity crisis that you have.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing. Even if you're trying to sell your company, know what the hell you are. Because if you're really not a gadget company and you're going to, you're calling up Rob to sell your company to them, if that's not what you are, guess what? You're selling yourself short, and you're not doing a great sales job. Like what you're saying, Rob, you have to have great sales skills and a great sales force. Well, if you're going to sell your company, you have to have that as well. Right. And if you just don't have this basic thing of knowing who you are as a company, and you say that you're an IoT company, I think that's a red flag for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? I want to restate what I said about consolidation. Consolidation this year is actually the best case scenario for most companies. The reality is it's the giant culling. Most of these companies are literally just going to go out of business. Yeah. They're just run out of money. And so consolidation is actually the hopeful view of things. The reality is most of them are all they're running out of money and they can't stay alive. They didn't pivot to some focus. It's just like what we're on right now. We're doing a recording on Zoom, right?
Yeah.
If I was a company that says, well, we're here to enable you to send some kind of video stream to a PC from a whatever, and we're going to do that everywhere. And then another company says, no, we're just going to make this product called Zoom and just do it and sell it. That's the difference,
Yeah.
Figure out what you are. Like you said, make one thing and kick ass at it. Be super, super focused. Get out of the plumbing business. You need the plumbing underneath the covers, but don't talk about it. We're making Zoom. We're making Teams. We're making whatever. We're making a water treatment plant solution. that I'm going to sell to water treatment plant people, and that's all we do.
Yeah.
You know,
And this is cliche now, but focus on the outcome. And it is so much easier to say that than to do. And so that's what you really have to figure out. You're doing something. You just have to figure out, well, how does this stuff even amount to anything that anyone gives a rat's ass about in terms of business value?
Yeah. And again, look at the money. Look who's making. Yeah. Just remember who's making the money. Look at the pie chart. Yeah. Hardware still. Yeah. Consulting firms. SIs.
Yeah, the problem is that to make a company like an IoT company with hardware, etc., you need tons of money.
Yeah,
and you need to go to convince investors first.
Yeah, you're right.
To get used to that, and then if the investors love your technology, so you start talking about technology, and then you start. So you forget selling because you have you can get a lot of money because you have rich people on your board. That if you need, they will give you the money. Why you need to sell? We will sell later, no? Yeah. When we will have the product, but the product, it's hard to build. So you will have like a couple of years of struggling, making the product, and then but then the problem is, hey, you have to sell the product.
Yeah.
And you lost 2 years, and potentially position your brand, position the product, position yourself.
And you can't wait until the next crisis to float your boat, you know? Because a crisis usually resolves itself. So, sorry, culture.
Yeah. Guys. And you know what, Mark, you're also...
Party's not going to last forever.
Just in what you're saying, Mark, there's also that catch-22. It's more expensive to do a hardware startup, right? And you need to raise money to do it. What is the one thing venture capitalists hate a startup to come pitch them? Hardware. If you say, I want to do a hardware startup, most VCs are like, get out of my office.
Why? I have a call.
Yeah, exactly. VCs don't like to invest in hardware. They want to invest in software and SaaS and things that can scale right once, sell 1 billion times. Hardware, while it might be a great idea, they're just like, oh God, it's going to take forever. It's a catch-22. It really sucks for sure.
You know what, man.
So what advice would you give to companies that wants to make hardware?
Oh my God.
I was going to say, no, I'm not going to say go rob a bank, win the lottery.
We might get kicked off of YouTube.
Yeah, we'll probably get kicked off YouTube, so we would never say anything like that.
Go to Vegas.
Go to Vegas.
Was going to say, but it didn't say, but did say.
It didn't say it. Just go to Vegas and score.
You're making a joke.
Exactly.
Don't take it out of context. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, you know what? I was just thinking, man. We're kind of SOL. I mean, the hardware guys are SOL because if. Think about it. Where's the cheapest manufacturing in the world? It's still China. You know.
Yeah.
And that answers the question, but it also raises a concern. If this trade war continues or this tech war continues, they have a few they have some trump cards to play, and that's one of them. It's hard to replace that supply chain that's been building itself out for 30 years. I mean people, I don't think I know that people don't understand how entrenched we are in China, the electronics industry or the tech industry. It's just choking off chips from their tech industry. If you think that that's somehow going to undermine them, think again. And I think it's important for people to understand that. But anyways, totally off topic, but it's just an epiphany that I just had as you were mentioning that.
No, but all these things play into the survival mode of a company that doesn't want to go out of business. We saw this, in the early 2000s, or when we had that financial crisis in 2008. You saw a lot of software companies like, the money's gone. And they pivoted to outsource to India. And they got Indian developers really cheap to help them stay alive. The same thing will happen and is happening with hardware startups. I will find some contract manufacturer in China to cheaply build this hardware thing that I need to stay alive and go to market with. You know?
But this already happened before the pandemics, the Chinese. But the problem of manufacturing in China is that you need like to send someone that you trust with there to control all the manufacturing process and do some quality tests. And now it's not possible to send anyone to China to do the quality test. So how do you have this assurance that the product is going to be built properly?
You know what? I have a funny feeling they'll figure it out. But, you know, the only ironic thing is it seems like the main other option, or at least that's what I see on the made in labels that I'm seeing nowadays, is, another communist country. Vietnam. It's like, we're going to move away from China, but so let's send the manufacturing to Vietnam. Okay.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Anyways, gentlemen, I'm way out of coffee. That was really fun.
Me too. That was fun.
Wonderful rambling with you guys. So thanks for our IoT Coffee Talk listeners and viewers. We hope some of you smaller players have been watching this episode, because I think there's some great nuggets for you to digest and maybe even take to heart, because it's a tough time. We know it, and hopefully we're providing at least some path to answers, or even answers. So remember to smash that like button. Yeah, subscribe, smash that share button, smash it, right?
And talk to all the people on your team and find out some job that they had before they were building software that's a vertical, that there's a problem to solve. And then you all pivot and say, we're taking this generic stuff and we're going to focus on one little thing.
Survival mode, baby. Right?
Yep. Survival mode.
So and
may the force be with you.
Exactly.
www.iotcoffeetalk.com, and we will see you next week. Take care, guys.